Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. So, in today's video, a bit of a giveaway here. Peter Gabriel's 1980 concert tour for his third album, which was my first ever gig I ever went to. You know, that was, well, ever since then, since I first really got into music, Gabriel has been, you know, for a long time, one of my very favourite artists. And for, you know, probably the first 10 years of me being into music was my favourite artist, full stop. You know, as you know, you may well know, he released his first solo album having left Genesis. He released his first solo album in '77, the second in '78, the third in 1980, and I think it was '82, not sure for the fourth. And then So was a massive hit for him. A couple of soundtrack albums in between. Plays Live came after the fourth album, and then I believe Birdie, soundtrack to the which I've never actually seen that film, and then I think it was So, Last Temptation of Christ soundtrack, which is awesome, and then Us was '92, I think. Which was the next studio album after So like the sixth studio album. And then following on from Us, we had Up, which I think was in 2002. And then 2023, for a 21-year wait, we've got IO. And very bizarrely, as you were probably all aware, he's released two versions of it. Well, he's actually released three if you include a Dolby Atmos version, which I don't include, frankly. I'm not really into that kind of thing. So, you know, just the stereo releases for me. But, you know, confusingly, irritatingly, marvellously, however you want to look at it, we've got two versions. So what I want to do today is just chat a little bit about the album overall and then some of the differences here. So, first of all, let me just take this one out. You can see, actually, very first of all, you can see we've got a blue OB here and a pink one there. And, it, you know, it indicates their dark side mixes and bright side mixes. And there's no difference whatsoever on the back other than the, like I say, the OB. But if I take one of these out, I'll take this one out of the wrapper here. You can see this is a separate piece, and then you've got your typical kind of real world spine here, and the pink spine under there. And if you look in the middle, excuse me, that's me keeping my cling film, you've got a pink inner here because I think you can see there the inside of the gatefolds are pink. And this is the bright side mix, double album. Let me just take this out. Obviously pink rim around the label, and the bright side mix comes in a polylined white inner sleeve. We'll get on to more of the differences in a minute. I'll just pop that away. And you get a very lovely book, which on the bright side is kind of presented in pink, as we see. I will get more onto this in just a little while. The blue, the dark side, by contrast, I haven't actually taken this out to shrink yet. So by contrast, you've got black inner sleeves, which I think is fairly cool. You've got a blue rim around the label. I'll just take that out to show you more clearly. You see we've got there, again, polyline, so you can kind of, well, if you're anal like me, you can still keep these and use them. I would automatically, as a matter of course, change inner sleeves if they weren't polylines. And as you see, you've got the book, which is presented in blue for the dark side mixes. All the words are the same. It's just a different, I say just, it's just a different mix. All the songs are the same, etc. Anyway, just to sort of give a very brief overview of the album, there's plenty of videos online. If you go to Peter Gabriel's YouTube channel, you'll see that he did a video every month, kind of explaining, you know, this month's track, what it meant, you know, what it was about, etc. And it was presented with a video. Now, I've been following those right from the beginning. With Panopticon was the first track, and I think it was Bright Side mix first, then Dark Side. I can't honestly remember, but anyway, you'd get the track with a video, Bright Side, then Dark Side. Forgive me if I've got that the wrong way around. And then the next track, Bright Side, then Dark Side. So the Bright Side came on the full moon, I think, and the Dark Side came on the new moon. And I'm pretty sure that's how it sort of progressed through the year till we had 12 tracks, and then the albums were released. Now, it's kind of an interesting thing, and this is my sort of feelings about video in general, actually. I mean, video's a really cool and interesting medium. I don't watch an awful lot of films. I watch quite a lot of documentaries. And that's by far the most, you know, the thing I watch most rather than films. But with music and music video, obviously it's become a massive thing. And, you know, Sledgehammer back in the mid-80s was a you know, massive video hit for Gabriel. And, you know, it's as he says in here in one of his books, you know, he wants to, well, in both of the books for that matter, he wants to sort of marry together music and visual art and sort of present it as a, you know, a complementary art forms. And I can well see that, you know, it's a valid thing. It can happen. It does happen with varying degrees of success. But for me, kind of following the album throughout the year, I was actually pretty lukewarm about it. Quite mediocre. A, because I was watching it with the video, and B, because I was watching it on telly. You know, the sound was just very mediocre there. And as telly sound is, obviously. But I just didn't really get into it. And it was only when the year was up, and then on Cubuzz I sort of downloaded all the tracks, arranged them in the correct order. And then I actually did this with a Dark Side mix first. And then played them all in order from start to finish. And it was at that point that I got the album as an album rather than a collection of video soundtracks, so to speak. And, you know, obviously we've you know, I urge you to go to Gabriel's channel and listen to his they're only sort of 2 or 3 minutes each, little sort of descriptions about each, stories about each of the tracks, which, you know, there's a lot of depth in here. And it's a beautiful album, and it really is. If you like, you know, Gabriel, if you love Gabriel, as I very much do, this won't disappoint. It's just fantastic. And I just wanted to show this here. This is one of the lines from I.O., the title track. Beautiful portrait of Gabriel there. I'm not sure if you're on camera here, but there we go. But I just love this line here, which is a line from I.O., as I say. Just a part of everything. And I kind of think that's something that in this day and age is a really important thing to think of. And it's you can apply it to spiritual thinking, to religious thinking. It's, you know, if you think about different races, different religions, different, you know, whatever. I mean, there is only one everything, okay? various different religions, which would give that everything a name. But there is only one everything. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter anything. You know, everything is everything. There is nothing beyond or outside of everything. And we all are just a part of everything. If you believe we're all an equal part of everything, and we're all connected because of everything, you know, we are a part of everything. It's a sort of a philosophy, a spiritual state of being. It's something that's absolutely, totally true to my heart. And the album is really quite special. You know, some of the songs are just achingly beautiful, sort of pensive, make you think, deep songs. Some are very, very, very powerful. It really is quite something. And I just wanted to, anyway, let's go through now the kind of very briefly, sort of track by track in a way. We'll start with Panopticon, which is, you know, that was the first track out, which I think was probably in January. And I'm going to describe the Dark Side mix first, or primarily, because at this point in time, I would, you know, stick my head up and say I prefer the Dark Side mix. They're very clearly different. I kind of, you know, I do have mixed feelings about, you know, why Gabriel did this. Would I wish he didn't? But, you know, I mean, frankly, yeah, I wish he hadn't done this. I wish he'd just done like, you know, not the Dark Side mix and the Bright Side mix. I wish he'd just done like the perfect mix, frankly. By presenting us with two mixes, you can't help but start to judge them and compare them, and like, well, you know, the guitars are really squashed in this mix, or really, you know, Gabriel's voice is a bit bright and stretched in this mix, for instance. These are comments that I would lay to the two. But anyway, for me, I think the Dark Side mix wins. But I'm glad that I've got both, and I will keep both. And who knows, maybe in a year or two's time I'll have changed my mind. I really don't know. But anyway, just to sort of go through this and just give you an overall feeling. So Panopticon, you start off with this track. And one of the things is that just hits you immediately is the bass on this is just so deep. It's guttural. It's powerful. It's like it's seismic. It's like the depths of the Mariana Trench. It's incredibly textured and sort of, you know, you've got Levin there, Tony Levin on bass, just bending bass notes, and they're plummeting down and it's just incredible. It's incredible. And then you've got like the sort of little sound effects in this landscape above this just seismic, chasmic kind of, chasmic, if that's a word, bass. Just sort of bells and rhythmic kind of percussive elements, and very much the kind of character of music that we've come to know from Gabriel, I would say from sort of the third, fourth album onwards. There's a strummed acoustic guitar on here, which on Panopticon, which I find a little awkward. And the electric guitars, which are David Rhodes, who I think has been playing with him for just about forever. Just check, yeah. It's. I actually find it a little bit lost, the guitar in this, and if I was mixing this, which is again quite, you know, I'm not a mix engineer, but I think I would mix that acoustic guitar sort of little strum down significantly, and I'd bring David Rhodes back up quite a lot, but it's. You know, Gabriel's voice is full of despair and anguish and hope and passion. It's beautiful. The bass and the rhythms are just as good as anything you've ever heard. In fact, the bass and the bass depth and the way that's handled and recorded is frankly better than anything that he's done previously, I would say. There's Gabriel does his traditional kind of wailing vocals, this huge ambience, and you've got this sort of just this huge, dark, overpowering, foreboding kind of massive power that is the bass and the drums, and then this sort of almost like the landscape is just flying past you in hyperspace of the sort of bells and congas and various sort of it sounds like there's a lot of clay percussive things in there, that sort of hollow, think of San Jacinto and that sort of sound from the fourth album, was it? It's incredible. It really, really, really is incredible, but it's very, very, very dense. And I have heard a couple of people say, "Oh, it's very murky and muddled," and don't think it's very good at all. For me, the dark side particularly, you do need a pretty good system to sort of separate out that density, if you like. But that being the case, and also being able to cope with the bass, and I've got these Kerr Acoustic K100s, which are full-range studio monitors, and go, their transmission line, they've got a big 12-inch volt bass unit, and they plummet the depths cleanly, and the room's all acoustically treated to sort of stop bass overhang, so it stops and starts just like that, and it handles it well. And you want to play this loud as well. I would say if you've got a mediocre system, your speakers can't do bass very well, or your room doesn't do bass very well, you may well be better off with a bright side mix. But anyway, that's Panopticon. Playing for Time, very, very kind of familiar Peter Gabriel kind of tracks. Very spacious piano, which Gabriel isn't actually playing, incidentally. Beautiful vocals. It's just phenomenal. And even though it's kind of quiet, sort of just piano voice, there's still the bass in there, and it's not loud in the mix, but it is seismically deep. It's just, again, it's incredible. And then to finish off side one, we have the Court. Basically, you've got three tracks on each side, and the Court is another one of it's one of my favourites. Right from the off, again, it's massive. There's aspects of this album that actually remind me of Pink Floyd The Wall, and I don't mean musically, I mean thematically almost. It seems to be dealing with massive things, whether it's like our sort of the modern trend of just being absolutely drawn into your mobile phone, and or social media, or just unreal things, or sort of modern political kind of situations or social situations and all the rest of it. But in that way, it's a bit like The Wall for me. But it's musically, it's completely different. It's 100% Peter Gabriel, but it's Peter Gabriel dealing with some massive and some dark things, but also reflecting on some very things. This real sensitivity and delicacy in there too. So the Court is, again, a bit like Panopticon. It's right from the first note. It is just massive. Phenomenal rhythms. Tony Levin's bass just sort of bending and twisting and dropping like I say, just seismically right to the bottom of the ocean almost feelings. And then just one other little thing I just wanted to mention is right towards the end. I point out that Peter Gabriel is playing piano on the Court. Right towards the end, there's the most gorgeous bit of piano, which is just absolutely smacks of Tori Amos to me. Just that sound of that Tori Amos's Bosendorfer, I think, piano. And it's listen out for that towards the end of the Court. It's fantastic, and I really love it. Anyway, 4 kind of horses. Makes me think of Aphrodite's Child 666, even though it's nothing like that, the tune on there. But again, you know, just phenomenal, very kind of just immensely powerful, immensely powerful, but with just a huge, spacious, kind of open, rhythmic, you know, you kind of, and the themes and melodies within the sort of, you know, the mid-range and the upper frequencies, the sort of the landscape, if you like, which is placed over this sort of seismic Mariana Trench kind of foundation. It's open, it's floating, it's you know, in very much Gabriel-y style. You kind of can't pin it down. It's taking in from all around the world. Obviously, as we know, Gabriel started Real World Music label and WOMAD Music Festival, for that matter. He's been, you know, probably peerless in the sort of promotion of world music, and you know, I absolutely take my hat off to him for that. Anyway, then we come on to IO, which I mentioned earlier on. That's a very kind of intimate. It really kind of goes from intimate to sort of almost triumphant. And I think this, you know, the line in it, just a part of everything. I love it. I really do love this album. Love Can Heal. Again, very, very sensitive and tender. Very, very beautiful. But again, underneath this, you know, seismic, fathomless depths of the bass. And we're on to side 3, Road to Joy. Again, it's just this huge, very Peter Gabriel-esque, just massive landscape of sound. So much. I think this is a track about his mother who passed away, but again, very quiet, beautiful, reflective Peter Gabriel piano. Olive Tree picks it up. It's a faster pace. And then we've got, you know, into the last side. This is Home, massive again, massive. And it's you know, you're sitting there on the sofa and you really are feeling the music, because the bass is just immense. But it's not just immense and heavy, it's immense and beautiful all at the same time. Sorry, and Still is the next one. That's the one about his mother. Forgive me. And then finally, Live and Let Live at the end, which is just, you know, just, I don't know. To me, it feels full of hope and openness, and I love it. So that's kind of the dark side. Now, let's get on to the bright side. So this is the bright side mixes, and just to give you an idea of how they differ. So there is still this seismic bass, but it is much less dense. The overall sound, the sound stage is less dense. It's more open. And more, you know, transparent, maybe. I don't know, it depends on how you really want to use the word transparent. It's definitely more open, it's less dense. But, you know, that said, that density, if your system can cope with it, I think it actually makes this, you know, even better. But anyway, carrying on. The bright side, so it's less dense. Peter's voice is definitely kind of clearer, and it's kind of more projected. But when you go back to the dark side, it's not really. It's just more exposed. It feels more fragile, Peter's voice, but there's more light, and it is actually just plain brighter, in the good old fashioned hi-fi way of saying things are bright. It is just sort of brighter. you know, if you go on to the second track, IO, again, Peter's voice is a little bit more forward, not much more, but it is a lot more kind of exposed and fragile feeling. And frankly, I prefer the voice on the dark side. The depth of the bass is similar, but it's much less dense. And the sort of the higher frequency sort of, you know, bells and guitars and synth noises and things in the soundscape, the landscape, around that sort of fundamentally deep core is just verging on a little bit jangly to my ears. And when you go back to the dark side, you know, the voice is as present, but going back to it, I actually think it sounds more natural, and the sort of the busy kind of crescendos just sound not quite, well, they don't sound jangly, and I wouldn't say these sound very jangly, but just a little, and the overall size and scale of that massive weight there's more depth and body to the dark side, and basically as you go through the album track by track, the chord again, the chord feels very dynamic and open, on the and more airy on the bright side, but the dark side kind of sounds more Peter Gabriel, and definitely has way more of that sort of foreboding, just deep and dirty power to it, I suppose. And I won't go through the entire, you know, track by track of the whole lot comparing, but it's you know, it's by no means is the bright side bad, by no means whatsoever. It's just different, and you know, I was chatting to the guys at Raves from the Grave, where I bought this from for $37.99, and we got this one from the same. It's a cling film still. They said that they think they're probably about 2 for 1 people are buying the bright side, but they also said that they think for no apparent reason, they're just like, you know, it's pink, it's brighter, I'll have the bright one, which is kind of interesting. And I you know, they didn't feel that people are making that choice through having listened to both. They're just plumping for the bright side. And if you've only heard the bright side, I would definitely give the dark side a listen, particularly if you've got a good system, because it is a lot more dense. And if your system was capable of sort of picking out that density, and coping with it, it's more of it's kind of more of a substantial meal rather than like fast food, so to speak. I absolutely love it. I really, really love it. But having said all of that, there are elements to the bright side which are really beautiful too, and I can't help feeling there is room for a third mix. You know, well, I say there is a third mix. It's the Dolby Atmos mix, but I mean a third stereo mix that was just like the ultimate mix, or Peter's own favourite mix, let's say, because I would like to hear a little bit more guitar on the dark side, and I genuinely think that's about the only thing I would say, and that acoustic guitar in Panopticon, which just doesn't feel like it fits to me. Actually, it almost feels like it's patched in on top. It's like a couple of bars. It doesn't ruin the song or anything. It's just like a bit odd. There's some beautiful kind of guitar work, but it's very deep in that dark density, if you like. And I would kind of like to lift that a little bit more up, but that's me speaking as a mix engineer, which I'm not. So basically, you know, Gabriel, in doing these two mixes, has sort of encouraged us to think like that, I suppose. But anyway, there we go. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful album. For me, at the moment, I prefer the Dark Side, but I'm glad I've got both and will keep both. And you know, I may change my tune at some point in the future. Maybe in the summer I like the Bright Side, and in the winter I like the Dark Side. Who knows? But I would, you know, I would love to hear. I'd love to hear what Peter would come up with if he decided to sort of drill down a little bit further and just come up with one mix. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you think, especially if you've got both. And I'd love to hear whether you prefer, you know, which one you prefer and why. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Okay, thanks very much. Bye now. Bye.